so happy to welcome Joy Baker to be with us for this event. During her 25 years of training horses, Joy found that she had the ability to easily connect with those that had been abused or labeled mean by others. After years of soul searching and inner work, Joy has developed the ability to read the emotional energies we each carry within us, and now offers energy clearings and activations. Since we're rarely taught as children how to process and let go of emotions that are limiting us, those emotions can become stuck in our bodies at a cellular level. The first step to becoming self-empowered is awareness. Once you become aware of what's limiting you, it can then be released and cleared. Joy excels at identifying the emotions within your field, releasing what has been keeping you stuck and limited, and then activating the new earth energies that you are ready to feel and embody. When working with groups and one-on-one, Joy's abilities assist people to step into high vibrational new earth realities that benefit their well-being and the well-being of life on planet Earth. You can find her at courageinaction.com. And today, Joy and I are going to talk about her work and her insights. And at the end of our conversation, she will let you know ways that you can learn more from her and work with her. Thank you so much for being here, Joy.
Hi, Chara. It's so great to be on your show. I'm looking forward. I love the topic title, the new earth, humans in the earth, new earth. That's where we're at. That's where the whole world is at right now. So yeah, awesome to be here.
Yeah, we are at an exciting threshold. So one of your many skill areas is that you're helping people see that what we call new earth is an energetic or a vibrational state that we can choose to enter. So tell us more about that.
Okay, absolutely. Just what you said there, it's an energetic state that we can choose to enter at any time. And that's the key choice, is choosing, remembering to choose, because often we forget. And often when we'll do our inner work, and actually I'm going to give an example, so this will make more sense. So because it gives a little structure to the mind, and then the mind can understand it. So imagine, or if somebody's got a piece of paper, you write down, just draw two circles. They're interlocking, so they go through each other, these two circles. So you've got two circles. So the circle on the left is 3D. That's a matrix. That's where we've lived up until now, the age of Pisces. Now we're in the age of Aquarius, which we're moving into the 5D. We've all had this 3D experience, this matrix experience, which is, the emotional experiences: fear, anger, regret, guilt, doubt, uncertainty, shame, all of that. We're all familiar with that. And so we have had that experience, but also because we're familiar with that, most of us grew up in that emotional, energetic environment, we can tend to default to that. So now on the other side, the other circle is the 5D. This is a new earth. And this is what we're creating. This is what the age of Aquarius is all about, is creating in the 5D. So the emotional, energetic space of that, like you said, we can choose it at any time, is emotions such as happiness, gratitude, fun, laughter, love. But you want to be really clear. Person wants to be clear that it's divine love, because human love is often based on need, which then can create fear in that. So be love as expansive, as light, freedom, inspiration, creativity, peace, calmness. Those are all 5D emotions. Now, these two circles, they went through each other. So in the middle is 4D, the fourth dimension. That's where you're processing. So that's when you're doing your inner work or figuring things out and that, and that's the fourth dimension. Now, what most people do is, let's say they go down the rabbit hole and say, what's going on here? And you get some clarity and go, oh, okay, I feel so much better. And we've all had that feeling. But then, and I know I did this for years, you say, okay, I'm done, and then you go and do your life. But my suggestion, because we're actively co-creating the new earth right now, is choose in that moment when you go, oh, okay, I got it, I figured it out, this is what's going on, then choose happiness, choose inspiration, choose to feel creative. Because when you choose that, and it might just, I think we've all heard the word over and over and over again, you know, choose it. But the reason is you create an intentional frequency that you send out to the universe, that you send out to others, and you focus on that. And it's like, it's a focused intention that you're sending out, and that's what you will get back. So now people often will give up and say, well, I chose happiness, but I didn't feel happy. I chose peace. And often what happens, and this happened to me last year, I went, okay, I choose peace. And I kept making that as a priority. I choose peace. I choose peace. And for a while, it's like, oh, that peace feels so good. And then it was like my whole life just, it was like it just blew up in complete chaos. But what happens as you, let's say it's peace and it's light and it's freeing and expansive and it's so calming, and you know, the trust that everything's going to be okay. Everything that is of a lower frequency is going to come up, and that's going to create chaos. And we've all been experiencing that the past couple of years. So it doesn't mean, this is really important for a person to remember and to recall, is it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. This is the process of ascension. Ascension is you choose those higher emotional states, those higher consciousness, you choose that. And then as you're in that space, all the density comes up. You just say, okay, well, I'm working through this chaos. This, you know, this will pass as well. And when I do, because I've used all my tools, because I've gone through this with as much awareness as possible, when I get back to that 5D place, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel so good, because you've got even that higher levels of understanding and awareness and consciousness. So that gives you a bit of an example and a structure, almost a diagram, if somebody actually wants to draw it out, of, okay, this is a 3D, this is a 5D I'm processing. And now some people will, they're more, instead of going down the rabbit hole and really clearing things out, what their way of ascension is to focus on the 5D and the new earth and happiness and divine love and gratitude, and to be in that space of oneness and bliss. Again, as you're in that space of bliss and oneness, and maybe you're in a, you know, meditation, and it just feels so light and beautiful, in that everything of a lower frequency is going to come up. What we want to remember is, often if, you know, grief or uncertainty or fear comes up, I mean, fear is always going to be there. I like to say the more fear you have, the more courage you have. So it's okay to be fearful. Is what many people do, they're identify and acknowledge it, but then they say, oh, that's bad, or I'm wrong, or I must be doing this path wrong. No, you're not bad, you're not wrong, you haven't got it wrong, it's ascension. So the key here is acceptance. When you can accept it, it will, whether it's uncertainty or it's fear or it's chaos, you know, busting up in your life, it's okay, you're going to get through it.
Yeah, I really appreciate how you explained that. And I wanted to just make the connection to the larger world. You were kind of pointing in this way, but it as you were talking, I was reminded of how, you know, life on planet Earth in certainly the last like 2 to 5 to 10 years more has looked extra chaotic. And you know, we have all kinds of disagreements over health issues and political leaders' corruption getting exposed. It seems like anytime you look at a newspaper, and, you know, arguments about how the economy should work, on and on. So many people are looking at this so-called chaos, whether it's in their own lives, as you were talking about, or in the outer world, and they're feeling totally despairing. So what I think you said is really, really important, because actually the chaos can be a sign of this tremendous flowering and growth and clearing that is happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a good way to put it. And especially over the past couple of years, I mean, on an individual level, we'll experience loss and grief and that, and we're used to that, especially those that are on the path. But this has been happening over the past couple of years, so much loss and change, people leaving the planet, relationships breaking up, jobs, moving, all of that. There's been so much loss and change and a lot of grief, but that when there's loss, it also creates space. And that's why as we go into, 2022, 2023 and 4 and such, it creates such an amazing opportunity if we will reframe that and accept, okay, this has been happening, but there's amazing opportunity because it's created space. And that space is going to get filled up. It's either going to get filled up with the old emotional energies of the matrix or the new earth. So constantly choose the new earth. And you might not feel, let's say you choose happiness. You might not feel happy right away or even the next day. But what if in a few months or a few weeks or next year, you start to notice, you know what, I'm really feeling happy. I feel happy more often. You just keep choosing it. That's creating in the new earth. And that is, the chaos we've experienced the loss, but it's created space. So now choose it. When people will look back in 100 years, 200 years, and they will say, oh my gosh, those people lived within the greatest time of civilization, because there have been other times like this, but it's never been connected globally like this because of the internet. This is it's a major transformation. And I know when you're in the midst of it and going through it, it doesn't feel it. But when you can take a moment and go, you know what, this is actually a really amazing time in history. And I am an active participant in creating history and embodying the new earth. So
and we have so much freedom right now. So, I mean, I think a couple of things I want to add, first I'll note for our listeners, you and I are not going to go into some of the challenges we've been facing right now, because that's not really the point of this conversation. But before Joy and I started today, we were sharing with each other some significant bumps that we're experiencing. So it's not like we're saying this is a complete golden pathway of, pure bliss. But I was also thinking, as you were talking, coming back to your Venn diagram, so much of this has to do with the labels that we put on things, right? Because something that feels chaotic can be bad, or it can be an opening. And, in terms of what you were saying about this moment in history, I really agree with you. And my training is in history. We are so free right now. Women are more free. Children's welfare is better than it has been at a lot of periods of time. People who don't entirely fit the mold, people who are differently abled or have a different sexual identification, people of all different skin colors, we're at a point where societies all over the world are saying, okay, if that's who you are, that's fine. Be who you are. Now, I understand there's still a lot of restriction and trauma and all of that is going on. But at the same time, there is so much freedom. People are experiencing with different kind of financial arrangements. All over the world, we've got experiments going on with a 4-day work week, with universal basic income. And I really do not understand cryptocurrency, and that's something I'd like to understand better. But we have experiments with different types of currencies, different workplace arrangements. People really are more free than I think we might realize. And I just wanted to amplify what you were saying there, because it truly is an exciting time.
It absolutely. I'm glad you brought up that point of freedom, because so many people think, well, we generally think, okay, my freedom is I can travel, I can do this, or freedom. And I used to say this because freedom is one of my highest values. Freedom, integrity, and growth are my top 3 highest values. And so I used to say, I remember the first time a facilitator said, what is freedom to you? And I went, well, it's about being able to do what I want, when I want. That was freedom. And it's taken me until now to realize that freedom it's a space inside you. It comes within you, but more than that, freedom is freedom from attachments. So we get attached to others, we get attached to situations that, create frustration with us or within us, or fear or uncertainty, or fear making it, whatever it is, we get attached with family members and others, and we feel all of that, and we feel that in our body, and it creates a density within us. And when you can feel that, so right now, just take a breath. There you go. Just allow yourself to breathe deeply. There, and everything within you that feels heavy in that density. Just for a moment, let your unconscious mind just breathe, relax, be calm, feel that space within you. Just space. There's no right or wrong, good or bad. There's no right way to do this. It's just a space. Just imagine that. There you go. Just feel that space within you. And allow yourself to receive that life force energy. There you go. And just breathe there. Now that is a form of freedom. There you go. And in that moment, even if it's just a brief moment, you feel that space. And you feel the release of all the attachments. That's freedom.
Yes. Yes.
Just-
I'm thinking as you say that, we have so much freedom of perspective and belief right now too. Past human societies didn't. Whatever religious tradition you were born into, that was it. And if you didn't cooperate with it, you were possibly in severe danger. But everything that you and I are talking about also has to do with this freedom of perspective and belief and the vibration that we're attuning to. So if you want to talk about something else and you're not ready to go to this place, just let me know. But the next thing I'm wondering if we want to talk about a little bit more in depth for people who are listening to this and thinking, okay, I want to choose peace, happiness, joy, freedom, but it's hard. I get caught up in the heavy emotions or energies. What do you recommend for people? I know that's really an area of expertise for you.
I would say have some kind of a daily reminder. So you can do sticky notes somewhere, bathroom mirror or something. And if you don't want to do that, maybe you're living with others and they're going to say, why do you have these sticky notes everywhere, this positive stuff? You can set it up so you can send an email every day or a text reminder to yourself. I've done that. I've set it up so I get emails every day. I actually put in my calendar. So I look at my calendar every day, my online calendar, and there's a note. Oh yeah, whatever it is. So remind yourself, because we need to remind ourselves, because our unconscious conditioned ego mind, that's our comfort zone, will conveniently forget about that, because what we gravitate to what's familiar. What's familiar is comfortable. That's our comfort zone. And so we'll gravitate to that. And I think we all forget about, choice, choosing happiness. It's so simple. So we've got to set up reminders. And I would suggest, if a person, that the ego mind might come in at first, but I think everybody's heard of a gratitude journal. And I would suggest some kind of journal. You can just write one thing a day if you want, but let's say you want to focus on happiness. So every day, write down something that made you feel happy. I saw sunset, I heard the bird, this bird today. I saw this today. Doesn't have to be big. Just what you put your attention on, what you put your focus on, energy flows in that direction. And the direction that energy flows in, you get more of in your life. So the more attention you can put on happiness, or the more attention you can put on peace, the more you're going to start embodying that. So even just those two small things, set up an email or a text message or put in your calendar. So every day you see that peace. Oh yeah. And then it's just that brief moment, brief reminder, breathe. Okay, peace. Even if it's just once a day. And if you have something or an online journal, you can write a little note. Doesn't have to be big. If it's too big, your ego mind will come in, your unconscious conditioned self, and cancel it out. So just every day, write down something I felt. I had this moment of peace. And over time, because if a person's, whether they're 30, 50, 70 years old, you've got all these, you've been conditioned in a certain emotional, energetic environment. So it's be patient and, just put up these little they're simple little rituals that you do every day. That's,
Yes.
you can set it up so it's automatic, literally, but it's,
Yeah.
even if the word peace, even if you don't, you're so busy, the word peace comes in and you forget to breathe and take that, even that moment, the vibration of it has entered your field, and it will eventually build up. You're creating that, you're choosing that emotional frequency.
I think
And
that's really wise. I do that actually. I don't follow quite your practice, which sounds wonderful. But one thing I do is I subscribe to some of the daily, very positive, high vibrational emails from teachers that I respect. So they're always coming into my inbox. I happen to like Daniel Scranton and Trinity Esoterics and Sarah Landon. And, for people listening, you can do this on social media also. You can curate your social media feed so that this is what's coming in, is statements from spiritual teachers or people who are putting up these very high vibrational concepts or quotations. So anytime you look at your email or your social media, that's what's coming into your awareness. And it really works.
That is so important what you said there, the social media. Like, let the social media is a big part, of so many people's lives. So let that, support your ascension into the new work. And like you said, you can set it up, and that if you're going to be on social media anyways, you might as well utilize it to support your ascension. Yeah, that's big. That's good. Really good.
Well, there's so many people like you are putting forward this inspirational support. And so I challenge anyone who's intrigued by what Joy and I are talking about, plug into it, take advantage, receive. Lots of people put out free high vibrational newsletters with the teachings that will just help you to keep up leveling. And it's all out there for the receiving, as well, of course, as many, many books and courses and all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, I still remember, I've been on the path for a lot of years, and I remember when the first telesummits started coming up, and these speakers were free. And at that time it was just 48 hours, but I was like, I have access to this information for free.
They changed my life. Really,
absolutely.
like listening to that array, that big array of spiritual teachers on the telesummits. I don't even know when this was, like maybe around 2010, this all really blossomed. It completely changed my life.
Yeah, that's about when it started. And exactly. It changed my life. Before it was hundreds of dollars to, have access to this information, or maybe go buy a book or so, because the libraries didn't even have them then. So it was, and now we have so much access to it. So the only reason a person would get stuck is the lack of their focus on, the material that's out there, setting up reminders daily, or like you said, setting up the social media, or just going somewhere and go on Facebook and look for, even search terms like 5D, New Earth, Ascension groups, anything like that. It's out there. Instead of, a lot of people spend time, I rarely go on Facebook anymore, but a lot of people just scroll through that. But do it with, instead of just scrolling, just do it with intention. And because there's a lot of amazing groups out there. Or listening to shows, calls like this, it's all a reminder. And there's so many opportunities now. Like you said, there's so much freedom now, but we don't realize it until we look at there is so many freedoms now. And we have gone through something similar to this before. You know what? It's ended, like, the past couple of years. Like, it's not like we're going to be in, that's actually coming up. A lot of people are stuck in despair right now. And what causes uncertainty is that, when is this going to end? In the beginning, we thought it was going to be, a couple, 3 weeks and bit of a vacation. And now, it's gone on, like, when is it going to end? But it will. And we're not going to go back to normal, but who wants to go back to normal anyways? That's a 3D in the matrix. We're going to create something greater. So Just breathe, breathe. Know that this is going to, I don't want to say so much and, it's all transforming into something greater. So there you go. There's a little, I can feel a little bit of almost like a sparkle of hope there. There you go. Yeah.
I love that. Transform into something greater. That's really beautiful. So we've kind of been talking about focus, ways to use your focus and your time to inspire and support yourself. And you just mentioned the despair that a lot of people are still feeling. I'm feeling like we could spend a little more time on that, because another aspect of it that I notice is people doing things like reading the mainstream news. And instead of recognizing, for example, that we have some beautiful movements around the world for freedom and justice for women, for children, for people of all skin colors and races and identities and orientations, instead of noticing that we've got some beautiful movements for equality and justice, I'll hear people say, yeah, but did you see that bad thing that happened? Or instead of noticing that perhaps there is a global spread of an embrace of rights and democracy and kind of re-examining what do we need from democracy now, I'll hear people saying, yeah, but did you see that bad thing that leader did? What do you advise for people who want to believe that something like new earth, higher vibrational circumstances might be possible, but they're also kind of digging in their heels with the pessimism or the anger or the despair, or maybe that just makes more sense to them?
So you mean, in other words, you're saying communicating with those that are stuck in the 3D and not willing to open up to new points of view?
Well, I'm thinking more of these people on the cusp, like they want to believe what you and I are talking about, but then they might come up with a lot of counter arguments.
Oh, okay. So not those that are just, because some people are stuck in the 3D. They don't want to be awakened. So you're not
Right.
necessarily.
They probably won't be listening to this.
Yeah. So you're talking about those that are more there.
On
Okay.
the
So there's
fence.
some, okay. So good question. So let's say you're talking to, so a person's mind is somewhat open, but they're, and okay. So
maybe afraid to trust it too, right? Like,
right.
Oh, that sounds so beautiful, but I'm afraid to trust that and get disappointed.
Okay, and that's the key right there. I'm afraid to trust and get disappointed. So as an empath, so let's say you're talking to somebody like that, or the listeners talking to somebody like that, is often as empaths and light workers and highly sensitive, we can feel their fear and their pain and their like desire to something greater. But I can feel that. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go into the energy here. I can feel the energy. There's some gratitude that they are open to another perspective, but you're also aware of their fear, but it's so, pay attention as an empath. It's easy to, and I have done this more times than I care to admit, that you can feel their fear. So you feel like you have to go in that fear and almost excavate it for them, even if they don't want it done, clear it out. Just honor their fear. This is what I would suggest, is honor their fear. And so necessarily you won't say when you're talking to them, I honor your fear, but just, let's say you've had a conversation with them and they just keep throwing stuff up and, yeah, but,
yes, the yeah, but.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you're walking away from them, or you've gone home, or you're driving and you're feeling frustrated because they say they're open, but you can tell they're not open. First of all, just honor their fear. Say, okay, I see your fear. So have a conversation, with their energy. I see your fear. I respect your fear. That's the first step. And then okay, so what's coming in next, and it'll be a little bit different for every person, is a feeling of failure. Let's say, Chara, you were talking to somebody, and as you're driving away, what would be coming in, and like I said, it'll be a little different for everybody, is a feeling of failure, like I wasn't able to change your mind. If I'm actually a, light worker and an empath, and I'm here to do this work, then you feel like you failed because you weren't able to change your mind. But okay, there's a lot of grief coming in here. So what if it's not about changing their mind in that moment? It's about suggesting a few things, and they might come back with, yeah, but, and all their fear and the fear of disappointment, the fear of getting their hopes up. But what if the next person or the next person or says something, or they see something on social media or a news piece or whatever, and all of a sudden they go, you know what, maybe there's something to this. And you weren't the person or the catalyst to change your mind and really open them up. And maybe they have to go through days or weeks or months or even years. But what if down the road, because you said that to them and you open them up to another possibility, their mind is opened up. And when the time's right, they go, oh, okay, maybe it's possible. And so it has, there you go, there's some relief. Because so all the ways you're expecting that I should be the one who wakes them up, I should be the one who opens the door, and if I can't do that, I've somehow failed my mission or purpose on earth or something like that. Realize that, just let that go. Let's witness and honor that. There you go. Let's acknowledge that. And let's realize that we're all working together. We are a team. We're all working together. And you have shifted some energy by your willingness to open up, open them up to different points of view, multiple points of view. And it might take the next person or the next person, or it might take a few years, but eventually they awaken. It might even be in their next lifetime, but they will awaken. Where, in other words, we're all playing a part. Nobody goes from a closed door to 3D to 5D in one step. So we're all, when we realize we're all working together, and we're all, as light workers, we can tend to feel like we have to do it all, and we're, we can still feel separate. We're all human. We're all living this human, experience. But when we realize, okay, I've opened the door just a little bit, and the next person, the next thing that comes in is going to open the door a little bit more. And the other thing, pay attention when you're talking to somebody. One of the dynamics of the matrix is right and wrong. And so we can get into that right and wrong and try to want to open somebody's mind up, or show them what's going on, or really awaken them to what freedom is. We can get really maybe passionate, or not really hearing their fear or what they're saying. And then make sure you're not in the right and wrong dynamic, because making somebody wrong will never, you just never change somebody's mind. And so even if you have to check in, mid-sentence or mid-conversation, oh, am I in the right and wrong dynamic? And if you get a yes, just breathe and say, okay, let's look at this from another point of view. Our point of view creates our reality. Our points of view creates our reality. So your points of view, you kind of touched on this earlier, and it's just a little bit of a different way to say it. So if you open the door to what's possible for somebody, they might not, what you're doing is you're opening them up to multiple points of view. And as they expand that, they will eventually see that. But remember, and then you also don't want to get into, well, am I wrong? Did I do something wrong? And so just really pay attention to, am I creating, or am I involved in that dynamic, right and wrong? Because when you look at the matrix, you look at the collective consciousness, that's really one of the things that the society has been built on up until now. That's part of the conditioning of the matrix. Yeah. Look at politicians, they have debates. Right. I mean, in school, we'll have debates, and it's all about right and wrong. And we call it, we've made it okay to debate, and there's some value to that. but when, wars are about right and wrong. So we just want to really be aware of that, because we are the ones who are creating the new earth, the ones who, are the light workers, came here to see the light. So we are the ones who need to pay attention and look at what is our intention. Okay, well, I realize I'm just another person who's, not just, but I'm part of the opening this person's mind up and their perception. And when you can come from that perspective and you realize it's not right and wrong, then you go, oh, okay, it's okay that they didn't accept what I had to say. And also acknowledge if it's some people are just stuck in the 3D. I know some people like that. They have no intention of looking at anything other than that one, dense point of view, and that's their reality. So
Yeah, and I think it's so important to not be held back by people disagreeing, because history has shown, sociology shows, you actually only need a small percentage of any population to create dramatic shifts. And I always give examples like when women got the right to vote, there was not unanimous agreement about that. You just needed just enough votes in, for example, the US Congress. And there were still lots of people who were opposed to that. Well, gradually over time, now in the US, practically no one is opposed to women having the right to vote, or, very, very minute percentage of people. So I really think it's important for everyone listening, and thank you for these clearings you're offering that can benefit everybody. But it's really important to realize that all you have to do is plant the seeds that you can plant. And that may be conversations with people when it feels appropriate. Maybe you have an initiative in your workplace. Maybe you're doing something really beautiful, even if it's small, as a volunteer or in your neighborhood, or you're creating a course or writing a book or whatever. But really, all of that and what you were talking about just now, it's different types of seed planting. And then you step back and say, I planted the seeds as best I could. I didn't have to control everything.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, planting the seeds. Somebody else through social media comes along and waters it, and then somebody else waters it. And eventually, that sprouts, and hopefully, unless they just aren't, that's not, and you know what, that's okay. I mean, everybody's different. So yeah, this is actually a really exciting time we're in, but yeah, I want to acknowledge that it's also really difficult. I mean, I don't know of anybody that likes change. I mean, I've moved a lot in my life, but still, every time I move, it's still a big thing. Yes. So yeah, but it also means you're moving into if you choose at a higher frequency.
I appreciate you saying that. I've moved a lot too, actually. I think when I count the number of places I've lived, it's like, I don't know, 20 or 25 or something, but it's uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. That doesn't mean it's bad or problematic. It's a shift. And we have to kind of maybe just acknowledge that and nurture ourselves through. Most of us as human beings, with the way our primitive brains are still wired, we just don't like change. But a part of us is loving it and embracing it. And that leads to what I'm wondering if we might want to talk about before you tell us about how people can work with you. And that is inspiration and vision. So my view is a lot of people are just starting to get the awareness that how you are visioning what might unfold and how you're bringing your inspiration forward is really important, as opposed to just kind of waiting to see what happens and how you're going to respond. But really being a creator being, activating your creative impulse, having these high vibrational desires. So maybe you could say that humanity right now is learning this, or maybe we're relearning it. I don't really know. But what would you like to tell people about activating this divine creative impulse, having the vision, having the desires. How do we do that, or how do you do that?
Well, first of all, anything you want to create, always use I am. I am, we start with what we want, but wanting something always keeps it in the future. So people will often say, well, I've wanted more money for years. I've never gotten it, because you've always had in the future. Because if you look at that energetically, it's always in front of you. It's like the carrot in front of the horse, but the horse has a harness on and is in the cart. Well, it's just going to keep chasing that carrot, but it's never going to get it. So I am financially abundant. And then you can use the words, I like using what if money flows to me easily and effortlessly, because what if bypasses the resistance of the unconscious conditioned ego mind. So you don't go into resistance. Like one of the statements I like is, what if it's possible? What if something greater is possible? Because what if your mind doesn't go into resistance? And what if it's something greater is possible? You're bringing in possibility energy. Yeah. So if a person wants to, actually, before I go into writing out the vision, you can magnetize your vision, and it doesn't have to be something material. Notice, okay, so let's ask everybody to go 5 years in the future. And yeah, I can feel the resistance there. And like, how do I know what I want in the future? You can choose how you want to feel. So you choose, again, creating in the new earth, do you choose to feel in 5 years? Do you want to feel happy, peaceful, abundant, at ease, full of gratitude, inspired, creative? You want to be around people who are authentic and accountable, and, just choose that. What you want to do is choose emotional frequency. So even if you don't know exactly what you're going to have in 5 years, and that's okay, and you don't know the material possessions, you can choose your state of being. And then you magnetize that, focus on that. Like I've said, I know it's all in the same theme, but you can magnetize your vision to you, and you to your vision, and that's through your emotions. So you keep focusing on those emotions. So what I know in 5 years, right now I'm depressed and I'm stuck in despair. But where I want to move to is I'm going to feel happy. I'm going to feel that lightness. I'm ready to. I choose that. What if I did? What if in 5 years I felt happy and light and I felt free? And what if I was able, around people who were inspiring to talk to, and I felt energized? What if my health just started getting better and better and better? And you can feel that being energized. You start to imagine what's possible. And then from that place, you can go, because some people will say, I want the house, the car, the travel, and that. Well, that doesn't mean anything until you energize it emotionally. So then you can bring, all that in. Well, yeah, I want this house. Well, what does it mean? Otherwise, it's just 4 walls or such. What does that mean? What's a home you want to build? How do you want to feel living in that? So a vision, you want to focus on the emotions with it. Always use I am. What I like, one of the ways I started out writing out a vision, first time I wrote it, it was something like 25 years ago. And I find writing a vision, you write it as if you're writing to somebody else, and you want to bring them into your experience. So when I did this, I felt so happy and free and light and grateful, and that. So somebody else imagine sending a letter to somebody or writing somebody an email, and they're reading this going, oh my gosh, it sounds like you had so much fun and you were so, so happy and you met such amazing people, but you're writing it's in the future, but you're writing as if it's happened. And that's, for me, I find that's even more powerful than I am, because I am can still, my mind can go, but you're not. But when you write as if it's already happened, then you start to get into the emotional frequencies of that. Because, okay, if somebody else is reading this, are they going to know, what I experienced? Because we've all at times felt happy. We've all at times felt peaceful. So you remember that. And as far as feeling inspired to write it, again, and this is where I like the, what if it's possible? What if it's possible? I've said that like a mantra for over and over and over again. What if it's possible? What if it's possible? see it, you can write your vision, you can write it as if you're bringing somebody in, but if you don't believe it's possible, then you won't necessarily, like, it'll just embody it with that energy. But so you start bringing possibility energy in. And what if it's possible? Again, it bypasses any resistance and it brings in that energy of possibility. When you bring in the energy of possibility, you're creating a space in front of you, and then opportunities, and you're open up to new, new ways of seeing things in that.
Yes, and I want to mark for our listeners, this, what Joy is saying is very high vibrational and multidimensional, and you can see how this works in the 3D practical realm, because everything that you just said, Joy, that's how inventors have always operated, right?
Mhm.
So we think back to the first person who developed a round wheel for a cart during, probably the transition from hunter-gatherer to agriculture, during early agricultural times. So 20,000 years ago. From that person to the person who invented an innovation in healthcare or transportation or whatever, the only way anybody has ever invented anything is to believe that it might be possible. So I love to talk about that, because on the one hand, what you're talking about, it's very spiritual, it's very visionary, but also this actually is how positive change occurs, even on the most simple level, like my closet is messy. What if it's possible for it to be organized? And then you do it. So I just think this is, it's even more actionable and familiar than people sometimes realize.
Yeah, and it's simple. I mean, that if a person, when you're driving, walking, just doing something, you started saying the mantra, or record on your phone and fall asleep to it. What if it's possible? What if it's possible? What if it's possible? And you probably heard me say, Chara, that, I said that as a mantra for, off and on. I'd say, what if it's possible? And I'm sure that if I hadn't started saying, what if it's possible, over and over again, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, or, really building the healing business in that, because it's just, it opened up that space. And somebody first put in my mind, you ought to get on the telesummits. And I just immediately went, oh, not me, like who am I, kind of thing. But they put the possibility in my mind. And then I started, once I rejected it for a little bit, and then I went, what if it's possible? And I just started saying, what if it's possible? What if it's possible? And it was about 2 years from the time the person was out for a walk and ran into an acquaintance, and they said it to me, you ought to go on the telesummits, and initially rejected it, but then I started going, what if it's possible? And it was about 2 years later, I got on my first, show, and, just went from there. So that is so simple. And that is something a person could set a reminder for, or daily emails, say, even for the first 30 days or something, those words come up. What if it's possible? Remind yourself to say that. What if that, that alone, believing that it's possible, can change your whole life.
I'm feeling like you and I should model right now how to do this for the collective also. So I'm going to offer some what if it's possible, and then you add some. What if it's possible that in our lifetimes, everyone has healthcare? What if it's possible that there are gardens everywhere, and habitat for plants and animals, and food for people, and beauty? What if it's possible that we truly implement renewable energy that is safe and harmless for people and planet? What if it's possible that the air is clean, the water is clean, the water creatures, our brothers and sisters in the water, are thriving, and our animal and plant brothers, sisters on the land are thriving, and those in the air? What if everyone has access to contact with the earth? What if everyone remembers or learns how to listen to one another, and plants and animals and earth? What if there is a place for everyone? Everyone is accepted and embraced and honored no matter how they identify or what they look like or what their background is? What if everybody has meaningful, joyful, beautiful work that is regenerative for people and planet? And I could probably think of more. Well, let's see, two more. What if our economies serve the well-being of people and planet? And what if our political systems truly serve the thriving of people and planet? Which ones come up for you?
Well, first of all, I just want to say to those, because those are big ones. Those are, the whole civilization, but it's already taken place. See, now, when a person said, this is how it works, what if it's possible? When a person says, what if it's possible for everybody to have food? What if it's possible for this? What happens is you start to notice, well, you know what, that's because I remember, nothing specific, but I know little things were coming up. Well, I heard of that taking place, and more people are creating businesses that, like cleaning up the oceans that are New Earth, that are 5D. And
Yes.
that's, like you said, that's the questions they ask, what if it's possible? And now I want to bring it down as you were speaking, that's on a global scale. I want to bring it down to a personal level. What if it's possible for me to be happy? What if it's possible? It's a big one for a lot of people. What if it's possible for me to quit my job and even increase my financial wealth? What if it's possible for me to quit my job and, have abundant opportunities show up where I'm happy and I feel good and I'm making even more money? Which, by the way, one of my clients that had worked with me for a while, I just got to mention, she just mentioned casually a couple of times she was thinking of quitting her job. She emailed me one day and said, oh, I quit my job because I found another one that pays twice what I was. So she, and she was just working on her self-worth and that, but she started to believe, what if it's possible? And it's so I had another client who quit her job because she had come up with another idea and she's running with it. And the more she focuses on it, she's got some great ideas, making more money. So there I can feel people getting, excited, like the collective. It's like going, what if it's possible? What if it's possible for me to, let's say, because many people are in chaos right now in situations, what if it's possible for me to see the bigger picture here? What if it's possible for me to understand this from multiple points of view? What if it's possible for me to find peace in the chaos? What if it's possible for me to, even in the midst of this chaos, find glimpses of happiness and joy? What if it's, so what if it's possible? So you can use that, yes, on a global scale. And that's, like you said, that's where people often come up with, inventions and such. And it's on a personal scale, like I often say, the first chair was created, I'm sure back in the caveman days when they got tired of sitting on the ground and they said, we need something to get our butts off the ground. So they're like, okay, what can we come up with? So they came up with some kind of a chair. So they weren't sitting in the dirt and the muck and the rocks, but it was, they had that vision first and they said, what if it's possible?
Yes, and you mentioned ocean cleanup. I feel like I have to mention, we've got this amazing current example of someone who did all of this. This young man, Boyan Slat, I think he's from the Netherlands. When he was 18, about 10 years ago, I think, he learned about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And he learned that no one had a solution for cleaning it up, that basically activists and scientists and lovers of the ocean were pretty much in despair about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And I think now we've learned there are actually 2 or 3 of them and they're bigger than Texas. And, it's really serious. Mm-hmm. Starting at age 18, this guy said, there must be a solution. And he designed a prototype for, you can find him online, the Ocean Cleanup Project. He designed a prototype for a pretty simple boat with a floating apparatus that is scooping in this trash. And it took him a couple prototypes. I mean, he ended up getting engineers on board, and he's got a whole staff now and funders. It took him a couple prototypes. The first couple didn't work so well. And I believe it was in 2021, they had a huge success. And it's now looking like we will clean up the garbage in the Pacific Ocean in the next few years. Moreover, his next invention is a device that goes at the mouths of rivers to capture the trash before it even goes into the ocean. Now, obviously, other solutions are needed. We need to stop using all disposable plastic and things like that. But he is an extraordinary example. This is happening right now of someone who said, it must be possible, and I'm not going to give up. Really inspiring.
That's actually who I was thinking of when I mentioned that, but I didn't know the details. So yeah, it's a major, and just, yeah, bring it to, again, you can think what's possible on a global scale or just in your individual life. And it's, I mentioned a situation that I would, really chaotic the past month. And I started saying, what if it's, a few days ago, I started saying, what if it's possible to find peace in all this? What if it's possible that once, this resolves itself, because of this, I'm even more aware and, more by that time, more embodying the 5D in that. And I started looking at the possibility of this situation and the chaos. And then, like I mentioned last night, I got some news that just feels like everything has shifted and, energetically in a big way. So when you ask, what if it's possible, somebody else who family situation, wasn't very good and, not their immediate one, but and I started saying, what if it's possible for this? They knew the outcome they wanted. So I said, start focusing on it. And that's so important. Focus on the outcome you want. And, and then just keep focusing on that, because if you focus on, let's say there's a situation that makes you really angry, you're giving that situation energy, and it's going to stay stuck or it's going to grow. So just it's almost like turning your intention, your focus another direction, and focus on what you want and give energy to that. And like I said to my client afterwards, once this, the preferred situation has been created, you can deal with the anger and but for now, this is what you want to create. And so just, focus on that. Sometimes it can be really, the situation I mentioned to you, but, just for the call was, I just kept focusing the energy. I could have gotten stuck on the anger very easy and just kept focusing the energy. This is the intention. This is what I, wanted. This is the greatest, the greatest high and good, greatest and highest good of all. And sure enough, that has happened. So it does, yeah. Between possibility and focusing your energy and intention on what you want, we can create miracles.
Yes,
absolutely.
And that really is the type of creator being that the human species is designed to be. And we are coming into that, and that conscious creation with loving intent is what New Earth is about. Joy, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I know that you're offering some audio programs and sessions to assist people with stepping into these new earth energies for themselves and the human collective and the planet. So tell us a little bit about what you're offering.
Okay, sure. So they're the first package, offer A, $87, is creating freedom and abundance, because the new earth is a frequency. It's a space, and it's a frequency and vibration. Freedom is a frequency of lightness and expansiveness, flow and ease. And we often ask, how can I create more money? And when you're in that frequency already, when you feel like, we talked about freedom earlier and embodying that in that space. Yeah, even just saying that, I can feel people relaxing. When you're in that space, you're open to receiving money. Money is simply a consciousness and a frequency. So the first part is about creating, there's the foundation, there's the intro, and then there's a foundation about freedom. And it's creating freedom with money, health, and energy, and then embodying freedom and really feeling that again. It's a space, it's a frequency. And then when you feel that, you're creating financial abundance. And then we go from the first part here, first four are core beliefs that we have around money that affect, well, everything in our life, but especially money. Not enough to enough. When you're stuck in not enough, you just keep creating that and you're focused on that. So we work through, or we move through in, like, I go deep into the unconscious conditioning, identify emotional beliefs, patterns, defaults, anything like that. My guides just identify them and acknowledge those, send those to the light, and then we actually activate enough, feeling like enough. And then it goes from, so there's not worthy and deserving to worthy and deserving, from feeling like you don't matter and not important to I do matter and I am important. And then from feeling not safe to safe. And we generally, when we think about money, we don't think about not feeling safe. But once you have, you're embodying financial abundance and that flow and ease in receiving money easily and effortlessly, what money does, it gives you the ability to experience life in a bigger way. And often as empaths and often introverts, we can tend to isolate. But once you've got more money, you interact with the world in a bigger way. So this is about creating safety and feeling that way. And then expecting money and amazing experiences, because you want to get into the expectation of that. And again, expecting those amazing experiences. And then we create the field of like receiving money, actually being receptive to money. And that's the first package there. That's offer A. Offer B is everything in that package, and then your own personalized remote freedom clearing. So what this is, it's like the ultimate in convenience, because you don't need a scheduled appointment. What you do is you send me an email with your picture and an issue you want released, and we'll go in that and identify, we go right to the core of the issue and release that. And that creates space. And often, like we've been talking about, that will open up new points of view, or I could do this, or things you've never thought of before. You get that epiphany from that. And then we activate what you're looking for. Your higher self knows. So we activate what you're looking for. And then that's emailed to you afterwards. You can listen to it as many times as you like. So that's an audio recording. Or offer C is a package from offer A, and then a 45-minute personal phone session, which some people like more the interaction between the in the phone session. And it's 45 minutes, so we go pretty deep in there. And then for some clients, memories will come up or things you haven't thought about. We can clear that out in the moment. And and that's recorded as well, so you get the recording from that. So you can choose from, there's offer A, B, or C. B comes with the remote freedom clearing, and offer C comes with the phone session, and then of course the audio program. So that's what it is.
Thank you, Joy. I have benefited from working with you, and I really encourage people to take advantage of what you're offering, because as you talked about freedom and these other beautiful states that we're all trying to exist in, we know that, and I see this more and more clearly, the more we cultivate those for ourselves, the more we actually are helping all of humanity, because that vibration, that frequency that we're carrying of the joy or the freedom or the financial ease, it spreads out, it gives an example to others, it holds the energy that is possible. So I love the work that you're doing with individuals, because I know it has an impact bigger than just for that one person.
Oh yeah, it's the ripple effect when one person, and that's what they mean when they say, just by being you make a difference in the world. because some people will say, well, it's just, it's not enough. But when you focus on happiness, joyfulness, gratitude, fun, laughter, anything like that, you're sending out even the 95% that's unconscious within us. It has a vibration and frequency. You're always radiating that. So when you're focused on the emotional space of the new earth, and you're constantly choosing that, or you're moving that, towards that, that's what you're radiating out. That's how your very beingness, just walking in this planet, being here, you make a difference. Because it's that vibration you're sending out, and a person can be on the other side of the planet. And if they're ready and they want to feel that, they will pick up on that.
Yes.
Now, the greater the emotional connection between people, the more they'll pick up on that. But still, if somebody's ready, it's like a soup. We're all part of this. We're all part of the collective. So just by being you and focusing on, your inner work and choosing the 5D and the new earth, and being aware that we are moving into the age of Aquarius and we are creating from that place, you make a difference. In which means you are unique, you have value, you have worth, you do matter, you are important, you are enough. So believe that. Let yourself believe that.
So beautiful. I think we'll end there. That was really inspiring. Thank you so much, Joy. I loved having this time with you, and thank you for sharing your insights and these clearings with us.
Thank you for having me on your show, Chara. It was great. And I love the topic, the new earth, humans in the new earth. Absolutely.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Visit newearth1.com.